Welcome back, and let's start with our first segment for today. And just as we mentioned, today we have a very important topic to all of us worldwide, talking about climate change. And climate change now is one of the main challenges that faces the world in general. We're talking about different places that suffer a lot. We have water scarcity. We have many different challenges that we are working on. Definitely, there are some of the natural disasters that take place, and also, we can do something just to confront this. We have social responsibility in this respect as well. Today we have the pleasure to have with us Dr. Ayman Abdel Wahab. He is Senior Advisor to the United Nations for Environmental and Engineering Affairs. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Abdel Wahab. And let's first talk, like my dear colleague Nashwa said, and let me add to her, the climate change is the result of human interference in nature. Of course, the deforestation, the burning of coal, the interference of the man-made substance, the poison, the toxics, the industrialization, the deforestation, lots of other reasons that would cause the climate change. Of course, to the change over ages. If you would explain to us the main reasons that we could be able to avoid the changes as much as we can, and also give us a briefing over the reasons behind the main climate change, the main wave of climate change that is undergoing the whole world.
Well, good morning, first of all, and thank you for having me. And actually, Nashwa and you covered many topics, so there's little for me to say. But anyways, if we talk about climate change, to avoid or prevent climate change, this is not going to happen. Climate change is going to take place, whether we like it or not, and we have to deal with it. And the reasons for climate change are many. Some of it is natural, and some of it is because of the intervention of human being. And actually, it's because of the excessive industrialization, the excessive use of fossil fuel, and on top of all is the greed of humans. We are very greedy creatures, and like, you know, in the modern world, they want to keep a special standard of living, and they don't want to let go. They want to do it whether it will destruct the world or not, whether it's going to affect the vulnerable areas or not. So these are the main reasons, and it's going to take place, and it's taking place already. Climate change is here already. We are not talking about something which is going to happen in future, but it is here already.
And we started to see this by ourselves. And maybe here, let me ask you about also the role of the United Nations in helping the developing countries in particular to confront this challenge.
Well, just allow me, before we move into the role of the United Nations, just let me put some figures or some facts that already was recorded, scientifically recorded. So we're not talking about something theoretical, because some of the very big nations, the industrial nations, they pretend that it's not happening. And some leaders are saying that it's a hoax, it's not real. But we're talking about science now. We're not talking about science fiction. We're talking about solid science and proven records. If we talk about our region is already very arid. It's very arid. It's very dry. So we have to take this into consideration. If we look at this in this map, we can see the darker area. The darker area represents the more arid area, and our region is completely falling into this. So we have to keep this in mind. And also, if we talk about the increase of temperature, in 2016, the temperature reached a very high level, which was never recorded before. So it's a record. And this map shows the areas where the temperature was higher. And if we look at this map, we can see that it's more increasing in the north than in the south. And we shouldn't be happy about that, because this means that it's affecting the North Pole, where we have all the glaciers, where we have all the ice cap.
That's the, the reason for avalanches.
Well, not only avalanches, but the melting of snow, the melting of ice and the melting of snow, which is going to contribute to the rise of sea level. So this is going to, although it's happening in the north, but it's going to affect the entire world.
The rest of the region.
And it's going to be, you know, it's not going to be equal in all places. Some places are going to be hit hard, and some are not going to be affected as much. And yeah, if we look at the figures for the temperature change in the last 50 years, this map represents the increase in temperature by 2 degrees during the last 50 years. If we had already 2 degrees increase, 2 Celsius degrees increase in the temperature, then we shouldn't be surprised if we are going to have 2 or 4 or even 5 more degrees increase. In this case, we are talking about a catastrophe.
Right.
We are not talking about only a rise in temperature.
But unfortunately, not most of the people or humans on Earth are so much aware of these facts, because there is not enough awareness. I mean, the issues that are concerned with the ecosystem and the biological balance and the breaching and the violation of the biological balance that in return affect the ecosystem, and preserving the wild nature and the predator and the consumer and all this directly affects climate change. They do not know that if we interfere by industrialization, by the greed of humans, look at the Amazon fires, look at the California fires right now, every year, California fires. All of these happenings are a result of, it could be a lack of awareness or the greed of humans, like you kindly mentioned. If you could explain to us in a simple way, how can we raise awareness when it comes to these matters to the citizens worldwide?
Well, you touched a very important point, because, you know, we are completely detached from nature. We think that the food comes from the fridge. We think that the water comes from the tap.
Exactly.
And we think that animals and birds and insects are something that we have to get rid of.
Exactly.
Many people, especially kids and new generations, they're afraid from animals. They think that they're evil. They think that they should be exterminated. This is very, very serious. This is very serious.
It's a catastrophe.
It's a catastrophe. You are completely right. And we have to awareness on all levels, even to
the use of toxic materials to get rid of animals.
Exactly. Actually, for example, you know, I forbid using any pesticides in my home. It's poison. If it poisons insects, then it's poisoning you one way or another, and it has an accumulation effect. So awareness is very important, but we are not now in the luxury of only awareness. We should be doing something. We should be doing something, and something very urgent
the laws.
and very serious. And enforcing the law is one point that should be implemented right away.
This is what I wanted to ask about. What is this something that we need to work on? I mean, now we have seen in industry, we started to use some healthy, searching for healthy resources, for talking about decreasing the carbon dioxide, the prints, all these things. But definitely the international entities like the UN and others, they have the role in this respect as well, especially as you mentioned, the major countries who are mainly responsible for this, they are not taking their own responsibilities, and the developing countries are suffering.
Well, you're absolutely right. And if we just go back to Paris Agreement regarding the climate change, many countries, you know, met together, both developed and developing countries. And many people think that there is something very promising going to come out of Paris Agreement, which is not true. What they did is that they pledged. They pledged that they are going to try to keep the rise in temperature on the level of 2 degrees. So it's going to rise. But they pledged that they're going to keep it up to 2 degrees. But there is no solid agreements. There is no active actions on ground. It's only promises. And then they said they're going to revisit, this pledge again on 2025 and see what happens. Nothing is going to happen by itself. Nothing is going to happen by itself.
I totally agree with you on that.
And we shouldn't, I'm sorry for, but we shouldn't wait for somebody else to do it for us. We have to do it to ourselves. We are in a very big danger. It's not a risk, it's a danger now. And everybody knows, or maybe in the scientific community knows, that the Nile Delta is going to be flooded in the next 50 or 60 years. So we're talking about our children and our grandchildren.
Coming generations.
Yeah, we're talking about living generations right now. We're not talking about a very far future. And especially the northeast of the Delta. It's very low land, and it already started to be submerged. And actually, the media should concentrate on that. The climate change is affecting our nation. Right now, we should show some pictures of low land submerged underground. We should tell everybody that some farmers abandon their fields because of what we call the salt water intrusion. The salt water is intruding into the groundwater and is contaminating the fresh water, and it became salty water. So they cannot cultivate their lands. It's going to be abandoned. The real estate is going to plummet drastically.
And because of the decrease of agricultural area and replacing it by housing units and everything. But let me take it from you here, and at least there is a very optimistic point, which is the 2030 Sustainable Development Vision for President Abdel Fattah Sisi and the Egyptian leadership, with its 17 goals. One of them, major one, is the climate change. But again, let us go back, because you didn't have enough time to elaborate. We could invest on your knowledge when it comes to the awareness of the main goals to preserve our environment and avoid the drastic results of climate change, like using strychnine poison in the streets to get rid of animals, like using pesticides. Most of the places in restaurants or everything, if there is, they use the pesticides like there is no awareness when it comes to that. The industrialization, like enforcing the environmental laws when it comes to pollution, burning coal and burning garbage in the streets. I mean, many violations, and Egyptians they don't have the least knowledge about it. Where is the awareness, environmental awareness, and where is the enforcement of law?
Well, awareness is very important, and abating the climate change, or trying to do something about climate change, is very important. But what we have to do now is we have to take an action to adapt, not to mitigate, to adapt to climate change. So we have to be ready to adapt to climate change. In other words, we have the Intergovernmental Climate Change Committee, and we have the Integrated Coastal Zone Management, and it's supported by the United Nations. But they are pilot projects. They are experimental projects. We don't have the luxury to spend our time in experimental projects. We don't have the luxury to spend our time in conferences and meetings and this kind of things. We have to have a crisis center. We have to have a crisis management center. And we have to have different specialties in this crisis center from all walks of life. We have to have scientists. We have to have strategists. We have to have from the media to extend the awareness. And we have to work in parallel. We don't have to concentrate on awareness only and then the catastrophe is coming.
Exactly.
It's as if, you know, there's a fire next door and we are sitting and talking about how
Setting
to extinguish
theories.
fire and how to prevent fires. The fire is already there. We have to do something about it. And that's what we have to do. We have to have a crisis management center. To have, as I mentioned, scientists. We have to have geologists. We have to have people, experts in crisis management and logistics and everything. And we have to put the map in front of us and to pinpoint where are the low laying lands. What are we going to do with these people? 20% of the world population is going to move from where they are right now. There are going to be environmental migrations. There are going to be people leaving their homes. So we have to do something about that. We have to bring the map to see where this is happening, and it's already happening already. We have to think whether to confront the rising sea level by building constructions, by building concrete barriers, by building alternative, you know, sheltering places for people who are going to move. This is what we have to do right now. And if you want to invest, don't invest too much in trying to, I shouldn't say that because I'm environmentalist, but I have to do it because I have to say it because this is my country and I care about my country. We shouldn't invest too much in reducing carbon dioxide. I know that many people would argue with me about that, because if you invest in reducing carbon dioxide, it's useless. It's a drop in an ocean. It is a drop in ocean. And we have to invest in doing something on ground to save our people. Our people in the low-lying lands are in imminent danger. This is what we have to do. And this is my advice as an expert in this field. And mentioning the United Nations, you know, I've worked for the United Nations for more than 25 years, and I'm still a senior advisor with them. But United Nations is not going to do something for you. They will advise you what to do. They will give you guidance. They will give you policies. But they're going to come and build shelters for you. They are not coming to build concrete barriers for you. We have to do this. We know our local conditions. We have our scientists. We have our engineers. We have everything. We have experts in all walks of life. Go anywhere in the world, you will find Egyptians are heading many scientific and industrial institutions, and they're very brilliant. So we have these capabilities. We have to employ them. We have to give them the resources. We have to delegate authorities to them. Set them free. Let them work. They can do miracles for our country. Our country deserves that. And we have all the abilities, all the experience, and all the resources. We have the minds. We have the will. We love our country. So why not do it? We don't have to wait for somebody to do it for us. We have to do it now. The time is now. It's not tomorrow. It's now.
As you mentioned, there are certain places who are going to be affected severely. What are the major places?
Well, the major places, as I mentioned, is the Delta region in general. But if you want me to be more specific, it's Alexandria, it's Damietta, and Port Said. Other regions of the Delta is going to be affected in different ratios. But these are the areas that are documented in different researches, in different literatures, and there are measurements that take place. And this graph will show you how serious we are right now. This graph shows the increase in sea level. The increase in sea level. So this is real data. It's not expectations. It's not dreaming that this is going to happen or whether it's going to happen or not. It is happening already. And we have this amount of rising sea level until year 2016. And it's going up. Nothing will bring it down. There is no miracles in this. This is science.
I mean, what other countries are the same like us? We are talking about Egypt, but in general,
Well,
to some extent.
well, we shouldn't worry about other
No, I'm
countries.
not worried about,
should-
but I
we
would
should-
like to know who,
Yeah.
who has the same challenge like us.
Okay. Most of the coastal regions are going to be affected in
Exactly.
one
It's
And
way
good
you
to
or
talked
know
another.
about
who's
the
going
North
to
Pole.
suffer. It is good to know who's going to suffer with you or who is in the main basket with you.
Well, the Far East, all the islands in the Far East,
Exactly.
Bangladesh, Japan, all these islands, you know, some islands already started to disappear.
It's a worldwide issue. It's not only in
is.
Egypt, to be honest.
It is a worldwide issue.
Let me tell you,
But-
and let me add to my dear colleagues Nashwa's words, because she raised a very important one. I was going to ask that question. It was
I
my
want
next
to know what
question.
did they do. I want to know how did they.
This
They
is
didn't
a
do
very smart
anything.
question.
That's why I was
They
asking.
they
This
have
is
a
a
real
very
problem.
smart question. Actually, I just attended the closing session of the Cairo Water Week. And it's a very good thing to have
Exactly.
such conference, but this is not enough. To be honest with you, this is not enough. Conference is good, but unless the conference come up with something to be done on ground, I'm sorry, it's useless. In this conference,
The Minister of Irrigation was there.
he
and
was there
He
and
gave a very
and
important
he gave
speech.
a
And
very brilliant speech, and there are some good efforts being done, but we need more. We need more. Going back to your question about what other countries did or going to do about that. Actually, there was a presentation by a guy from the Netherlands. They have this problem since long time. It's a historical problem. It's a very, very low-lying lands, and it has been affected by the sea. Few centimeters rise in the sea floods great areas. And they had some solutions even from their ancestors. And he mentioned that they started learning from their ancestors, and they started putting the new technologies, the new ways of confronting the sea by elevating ground, by building some protection, engineering protection, and so on. So they are,
What do you mean by the engineering protection?
like for example, building concrete walls
exactly.
in the low laying.
Preserving the environment.
Just
in
bringing sand and soil and earth material from the high land and putting in the low land. And we have many of this. We have plateaus, we have sand dunes, we have this, but it's going to be expensive. And we have to bear the cost. It's costly, but human life is only very costly. And it should be taken into consideration and be in the top of our list. So you ask the question, they are doing something. They are building. There are engineers, there are workers, they are pumping concrete, they are building barriers, they are doing something on ground. That's what we have to do. We have some modest, projects going on, but we need more. We have to raise the alarm. We have to tell everybody that this is a national project. It should be a national project, and everybody should put his effort and his experience towards the goal of saving Egypt from the negative effects of global warming and water scarcity. We didn't talk about water scarcity. This is a complete topic, and this
Definitely. Still, we have a lot of questions to be
Well,
discussed in this respect.
actually, water
Unfortunately,
scarcity
we need
is-
another episode.
Yes.
You should
Water
give us a
scarcity-
promise on the next week.
I promise
Inshallah.
that we can talk about water scarcity because it's a very serious issue. Especially, we were having this problem with the Renaissance Dam and
Yes.
this, so we have to be ready for that
Right.
as well.
Dr. Ayman Abdel Wahab, Senior Advisor to the United Nations for Environmental and Engineering Affairs. Thank you very much for joining
Thank you very much for having me, and I promise to be present in another episode talking
Thank you so
about
much.
water scarcity and how Egypt can confront it.
Thank you very much. And still we have more to bring you on our breakfast show. But first, moving on to a quick break, and we'll be back.